Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we have an absolutely awesome figure to take a look at. We have another Jurassic World Dominion figure here, and I was luckily able to get a hold of this a little bit earlier than I would have in my actual area because my area gets everything late, thanks to a viewer of the channel and my good friend Matthew, who was able to hook me up with this a little bit early. And not only did he help me acquire this early, but he also sent me a few random gifts, as we have one of those, I believe they're like 4D models. I think it's a Ceratosaurus. We've got a Ceratosaurus head right there, so I'm definitely thinking it's a Ceratosaurus. As soon as I'm done this review, definitely putting that together to check out, because I've seen those many times on eBay, but I only have like one or two of them, and I don't have the Ceratosaurus, so that's really cool. He also sent me one of these really cool miniature Robo-Alive dinosaurs, which I think is awesome. I have the larger, not this color variant, but the larger version of that Rex, so it's cool to have the mini version, and a really cool kind of I believe it says on the back, it's a 3D sticker. And we've got an awesome looking Dilophosaurus right there. So all really cool stuff, none of which I think I have in my collection at all. So I just wanted to give a huge thank you to Matthew for hooking me up with some really cool stuff, as well as this extreme damage Velociraptor, again from Mattel, for the Jurassic World Dominion line. So a huge thank you goes out to him. But as far as what we have here, this time again you've got the really cool Dominion packaging, which I absolutely love. You can see the extreme damage logo right there, and then probably one of the most visually appealing Velociraptors that Mattel has ever released. It is just an incredibly nice looking paint scheme. And then here on the back you can see again kind of a sneak peek of the Raptor and what it can do there, as well as the other two figures in this wave, which both will be up for review here on the channel very soon. We have the Coelurus and the Dimetrodon. So let's pop this out of the packaging and take a look at it. And here is our battle damage, actually I should say extreme damage, my apologies. The extreme damage Velociraptor, which these are apparently, I'm thinking, Walmart exclusives, because they did have the battle damage line previously. It appears as though the battle damage line is now defunct, deceased. We now have the extreme damage line, as we have 3 extreme damage figures here in a row with this wave, as well as the Allosaurus and some other stuff that they'll be releasing, a new T-Rex and everything. And that definitely seems to be the case, is now extreme damage is basically what the battle damage used to be. So I would imagine these are probably, here in the United States at the very least anyway, Walmart exclusives. And again, as far as a Mattel Raptor goes, like, we've had so many Raptors up until this point. It was pretty much a miracle, I would say, that we would get a Raptor that would really draw us in, or at least for me. I don't know how everyone else feels, but I was really kind of over the Velociraptors from Mattel. And then they bust this one out, and man, is this ever one of the nicest looking Velociraptors that Mattel has created yet. I really love the fact that we have paint that runs not all the way out onto the tail. It would have been incredible if it ran the whole way, but at least pretty far out onto the tail. We also have nail paint there on the feet. Really would have made a huge difference if we had nail paint on the fingers, but it's not the end of the world. And I love the tones of color chosen for the figure as a whole. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at this right now. So I don't think that the sculpt of the Raptor is too far off from any of the Raptors we've had in the past, but we'll take a look at it regardless. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see that as far as your Mattel Raptor head sculpt goes, it's pretty much your standard. It kind of looks like it's the exact same head sculpt we've had many, many times over from Mattel, and that's a really nice head sculpt. I really do quite like it. I feel like it looks quite reminiscent to what a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World Velociraptor looks like, so definitely a very nice head sculpt. And we've got some beautiful coloration here on the face, as we have a nice light coloration for the majority of the underside of the face. It's a really bright white, and then we have this very dark blue that kind of leaks down and stripes down. I love that it runs up here over the top of the snout, and then you can see it kind of leak down through the palette, all around the eye and everything. It's such a really nice looking paint scheme, and the way that that orange eye just pops so nicely there on the face, it looks incredible. We have a beautiful slit-like pupil, like you would usually see on a Jurassic style Velociraptor, or not all of them, but some of them. And you can see the same style of coloration over here, although I love that the design is slightly different over here as far as the way it leaks down into the face from the dark blue compared to what you see over here. Like, it's not the exact same thing on repeat. It looks different on both sides, which I really, really love as far as this figure goes. And the eye paint is definitely nicely placed, which is a huge plus, because my recent Giganotosaurus had really bad eye paint, the small 5-inch version, so it's nice to see some nice eye paint on this Raptor here. We do have an articulated jaw. We've got a nice naturalistic tone of like a pinkish, like a dark pink in there for the skin flaps of the side of the mouth as well as the tongue. We have a nice yellowish tone, kind of like an off-white bordering on a light yellow for the teeth. And there's no sloppiness or anything. They all look pretty good as far as the paintwork of the teeth goes, which definitely is a plus as well. And then as we move down the course of the neck, you can see lots of skin wrinkles and creases here in the neck region, as well as some nice detailing here in the throat region. Nice kind of like skin wrinkles and stuff. As we move further down into the body, you continue to see that really nice look to the skin texture. And although the coloration of the raptor is so bright, it's almost hard to pick up on the detailing, I think, on camera. But as per usual, when it comes to a Mattel figure, it is insanely highly detailed when it comes to the skin texture. And I love that throughout the whites, the speckling is really, really vibrant now. Like, it really shows up, and I think it adds another level of awesomeness to the paint job, because the speckling, I think, just looks great in comparison to that really bright white coloration. Of course, you can see as we move along here, we do have articulation in the arms. That's a given, but we'll go over the articulation later on. As you move down into the arms, though, you can see some very nice muscle definition, really nice hand sculpts with the nice scoots down the fingers. I'm pretty sure these are probably the same standard Velociraptor arms we've had many times up until this point. Again, I really would have liked to have seen nail paint on the fingers. I was kind of like keeping my fingers crossed and hoping that maybe for the Dominion line, Mattel would step it up a little bit when it comes to some of the paint applications of their figures have been a little lazy over the, well, since the beginning of the line, but more so recently than ever before, and unfortunately we didn't get nail paint on the fingers, but we do have nail paint on the feet. Not the dew claw, though. I can see that immediately. The dew claw does not have any paint back there, but it is sculpted out. But as far as the coloration for the feet go, we have a nice brown coloration for the nails, very nice glossy brown, which helps them look quite realistic, having that realistic shine to the nails. You can see the feet also sport some very nice detailing. We have some nice scoots down the toes. The legs are potentially and probably the same leg sculpts of the Raptors as well. So I don't think that there's too much difference on this figure compared to previous releases. You can see that as far as the leg goes, moving up the course of the leg, it looks like your standard Mattel Velociraptor leg sculpt. And detail-wise, it looks really good, beautiful muscle definition and everything throughout. As we move back to the stomach, though, this is definitely one area that is really quite different compared to previous Raptor releases, and that is the extreme damage feature of our figure. And to operate that, you've got a button up here on the back. You also have the DNA code, which is a little bit of an eyesore up here because there's just like an obnoxious look to it, but it's at least not as bad as I was expecting it to be, especially when you look at it from the side. You really can't even notice it. But we do have this button up here, and once we push this button right here, we now have an injury. We've got some extreme damage for our Velociraptor, and that inside does have a pretty nice sculpt. It's a little hard to see because the slices here on the side of the Raptor are a little bit small, but you can definitely see some nice detailing in there, as well as a really nice glossy red coloration, so it looks like it's legitimately sliced open. Definitely a really cool action feature. I did enjoy this. Every time they've delivered the extreme damage feature on one of their figures, I've been a fan of it, and I really do quite like it on this Raptor. And again, you just hit that button again, and now our Raptor is back to healthy again. And you can see as the dark blue kind of runs down the course of the body, you can see some of the whites kind of poking through up here on the top, which I also really quite like. And you can also see how the whites and dark blue almost like battle back and forth as far as like the design goes as we run along the body here. You can see it just kind of striping back and forth, and my camera is now going out of focus, but you can also see again that that blue continues to run almost all the way out into the tail. Like, we get about halfway through the tail before it cuts off. Of course, it would have been far nicer to have that blue run the entire course of the tail, but just the simple fact that the paint application has at least made it past the hip region of the figure is such a drastic difference compared to previous releases, and just really amps up the appeal factor of this Raptor. And then, of course, you have a very nice curve in the tail as you lead out the length of the tail. It comes up and then goes down, but also curves away from us a little bit, which looks really nice. You can see more of those speckles and some fantastic looking skin texture. I definitely feel like the tail is new compared to previous releases. I feel like some of the body parts are probably reused, but some are brand new, like the overall like body where the extreme damage area is definitely looks new to me. The tail looks new to me. The arms, potentially, but I'm not sure. The legs look like they're probably the same legs we've had prior, and the head definitely looks like the same head. But you're really not going to see too much difference on this side compared to the initial side we had just taken a look at, because, again, being an articulated figure like this, it's going to look fairly similar or pretty much the same. The paintwork, though, is probably a little different as far as the way it kind of stripes down into the body from the dark blue to the white. And the speckles certainly aren't in the same place on this side as what we had seen on the previous side, but there's no drastic difference on this side compared to the other side as far as the paintwork and detailing and everything goes. You can see the leg is in a different position over here. This leg is leading, the opposing leg is trailing, and we do have the extreme damage feature over here as well. Again, same deal as what we saw on the opposing side, where you push the button and the red shows up, and then you push it again, and then the skin kind of goes back over. This side, though, we have 2 slices, whereas the other side we have 3. So there's a little bit of difference as far as the injuries go. But I absolutely am in love with this Raptor. Definitely one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Mattel Velociraptors of all time. It is just an absolutely awesome looking Velociraptor from Mattel for the Jurassic World Dominion line. As far as the articulation goes, we've got the articulated jaw. We also have articulation in the neck. Really quite smooth articulation, of course, can completely swivel around if you'd like. We've also got articulation in the arms, really nice. Can also go out away from the body, so our raptor can pretend to fly. I love having the ability to hold the arms in more of a natural position in the body. We also have articulation in the legs, both legs, of course, as well as both arms, and then a swiveled tail. So definitely some really fun articulation. You also have the scan code, if I can get a hold of it. It's a little tough to grab a hold of. And you pull this open, you've got a nice Jurassic World logo, the Rex head there on one side, and then the scan code on the other side, which is definitely very different from previous scan codes. If I can get nice and close, you can get a good idea of, well, if my camera would focus on it, there we go, of how different it looks compared to the previous codes. And I don't think it's all that much of an eyesore or anything, because once it snaps back down, you don't notice it quite as much, but I will say that I don't like that there's kind of like a gap up here on the top of the figure. So it could have been done a little bit better, but at least it's not that bad. Not quite as bad as I was expecting it to be. As far as a size goes, it's your standard when it comes to one of the Mattel Raptors. You're looking at about 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters. And then for a height to the top of the head, a little bit over 3.5 inches or around 9, maybe closing in on 9.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon enjoying the presence of one of his best friends, the Velociraptor, and you can definitely see, again, size-wise, it's the standard when it comes to a Mattel Raptor, right there in the same kind of Attack Pack size range as all of the previous Raptors, and if you have any Mattel Raptors prior to this, then you already have a pretty good idea of the size. And then for another comparison, here is one of the last Raptors that was released by Mattel before the Dominion line started to hit, which was that greenish Attack Pack or Wild Pack version. And you can see how that one looks in comparison to the new one. Again, you can really tell how similar they are in, of course, the sculpt, but also the size. Although you can definitely see quite a bit of difference, I think, on the newer one as far as the overall sculpt goes. From the older ones, I really am actually starting to think that maybe the leg sculpts are a little bit different. They're kind of positioned differently. So the entire Raptor as a whole may be different, minus maybe like the head. Definitely looks to be the same head as the previous Raptors, and the arms might be the same. I'm not too sure. But regardless, this will hopefully help to give you another idea again of the size. So I cannot even begin to express to you guys how excited I am that the Jurassic World Dominion figures have begun arriving here in the United States. These Velociraptors are being found, of course, at Walmart, and then so are the other 2 extreme damage figures also have been found at Walmart. There's also a very cool Velociraptor blue set out right now, which I believe is also extreme damage at Walmart that has been showing up. Unfortunately, Walmart and Meijer stores, I think, aside from probably like some random stores here and there, and Aldi because they had the 5-inch basics, but are the only stores that have really been putting the Dominion stuff out. Target has at times, but they're register locked, so you can't really purchase them. So Target, I do believe their date to start releasing stuff is April 17th. I'm pretty sure that's the date. And obviously, Walmart is just going to do it whenever they feel like, I guess. But you can see again that this particular Raptor is an absolutely beautiful version of a Velociraptor. And in my opinion, again, one of the best that Mattel has released yet. The colors that they have chosen and how they play off of each other are so incredibly appealing to the eye. I absolutely love the way that the dark blue plays off of the white and the really nice speckling throughout the figure really helps to amp up the appeal factor of the paint job. Just a really, really nice looking paint job on the part of Mattel, and that's not often that we get to say that. The only thing that's a downside, I think, as far as the paint job goes, is the fact that we don't have paint that runs all the way out onto the tail. We have it running halfway out onto the tail, so it definitely looks nicer, but all the way out onto the tail would have been a much bigger plus. And then we don't have nail paint for the fingers. We do have nail paint for the toes, minus the dew claw, but I would have liked nail paint on every one of the nails of the figure. But again, outside of those two issues, it's a really nice looking paint scheme and paint job. The sculpt looks great as well, really nice and quite screen accurate kind of to what a Jurassic World style Velociraptor would look like. And the extreme damage feature is really fun. I've been a fan of that with every release that they've included it in. Definitely a fan of it here on this Raptor. And overall, again, it's just in general a really, really cool looking Raptor. And I definitely recommend anybody and everyone interested in it to check your local Walmarts. If it's not there yet, it'll definitely be there soon. This will probably be a shelf warmer at some point. It's a really nice looking Raptor that, again, I definitely recommend picking up. So one more huge thank you goes out to Matthew again for sending me all of those really cool extras, as well as helping me to acquire this Raptor a bit earlier, and also just generally being awesome and going out of his way to go grab me one of these. Again, a huge thank you goes out to him. So make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.